Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live. I love this time of the season. It is all to play for. It's all on the line. A win means everything. A loss means you're in some trouble. And the Warriors, they clutch out a 123-116 victory over the Los Angeles Lakers at Crypto.com Arena on Thursday night. Man, what a game. First of all, just to watch Steph and LeBron at this age continue to do what they're doing and have these epic battles. You can't get sick of it. You can't get sick of it, and you've just got to appreciate everything that these two guys are delivering while it's still here. It is absolutely unbelievable. And to see, Steph go for 37, LeBron go for 33, both guys going back and forth down the stretch in the second half of that game. Man, absolutely crazy. So that's the biggest thing for me is we've got to keep appreciating these two guys while we still have it. But the biggest takeaway for me from this game is the Warriors won this game in the first half. They found themselves up 60-47 at halftime. And ultimately, the Lakers continued to push in the second half. Looked like on a few occasions they were going to come back and they were, going to get really close or take the lead. And fortunately, thanks to Steph, the Warriors had enough to keep them at bay, and Dre made a couple of huge defensive plays late. And Jimmy was not a Jimmy game at all. He was awful to very, very quiet, obviously. 11 points, but 7 of those came in the fourth quarter. So the second half was more about the veteran players, but the first half to me was about the young guys. And in a game featuring Steph, LeBron, Butler, Luka Doncic, it was Brandin Podziemski who was the story of the first half. 22 points, 6 of 7 from three-point range, had 6 rebounds as well. This is just in the first half. Finished with that wild near half-court buzzer beater to give the Warriors a 13-point lead. That was the game, right? The Warriors, Brandin Podziemski gave the Warriors a 13-point lead at halftime and then Steph said, "Thanks, that's enough. I'll carry us home." That was what it was, right? Jonathan Kuminga, lot of criticism. And I get the criticism, but I think sometimes since his return, the criticism has been way over the top, I think. And his numbers in this game aren't spectacular by any means. They're not at Podz' level. They're not at Austin Reeves, LeBron, Steph's level. He wasn't a top 4 player in the game necessarily. But I'm going to glaze his game anyway. I am. Because too many people are going too far with the criticism, so I'm going to go too far with the applause. His game, I thought, was absolutely excellent, particularly in the first half. His rebounding was at a level that I don't think I've seen in quite some time. He had 9 boards in 25 minutes in this game, in a game where the Warriors are predominantly going small. His work on the glass, I thought, was massive, right? And so that provides a blueprint of what he can be in this Warrior team. Okay, and it was less so about the scoring. 18 points was fantastic, but I thought he was pretty good defensively. Fouled a few times, but against Luka, LeBron, and Reeves, that's going to happen, right? It's going to happen to a lot of guys. We saw, issues with Guy Santos and Quentin Post in this game. Young guys against those, veteran players. It's going to be an issue at times. I thought JK was pretty good defensively, big on the glass, and I just thought this was his best performance following his return from injury. Yes, he had that 18-point performance first up against the Kings, but that's against a bad Kings team. This is 7 games to go in the regular season, everything to play for against a bloody good team in the Lakers who are the spot above you in the standings. And Jonathan Kuminga, I thought, was huge. So shout out Podz and JK. First half and games in general, absolutely terrific. Podz made another couple of big threes in the fourth. Finished with 28, a career-high 8 threes after he just broke his career high 2 games ago against the Spurs. And I tweeted it out at halftime, this is the Brandin Podziemski, the potential future all-star player that the Warriors thought and knew they had on their hands during the offseason, when many of us, I'm not sure if I want to necessarily include myself in there, but many fans, and particularly, looking back at it early part of the season where Podz was really struggling, many fans wanted Podz gone for Larry Markkinen or whatever other trade you want to call for, kind of thing. And you've got a guy in his second year who, bear in mind, is making $5 million, who in a huge game for playoff seedings, again, in the last 10 days of the regular season, everything to play for, comes out, has 22 points on 6 of 7 threes in the first half. The value of that cannot be understated. That is massive. So the Steph-LeBron battle, absolutely amazing, extraordinary. We can't ever lose sight of how good it is to watch these two guys go to work as they do. But to me, the game was won in the first half where Podz and JK were absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, let's get into your comments here. I can't be too long. I've actually got to hit the road and head off. Hopefully, we have no internet issues. So this will probably go for another 15 or so minutes, and then I'll do another post-game live on the road tomorrow after the Nuggets game, which now becomes even bigger. Like, the Warriors win this game, they retain fifth. If they'd lost, they would have fallen to eighth. And it's almost a similar scenario tomorrow against the Nuggets, except if they win that game, all of a sudden the 3 seed is like on. It is like ridiculous how close. And I spoke about it on the podcast episode yesterday, previewing this game and this back to back. The Western Conference standings are stupidly crazy, right? And we saw Minnesota win today against Brooklyn. We saw Memphis get a Ja Morant game winner against the Heat, which was very annoying and frustrating today as well. So it's all happening right now in the NBA, and we love it. And we love it so long as the Warriors keep winning, which is now 4 straight wins after a couple of rough ones last week. Knox says, bro, Austin sees the Warriors and becomes a Steph, Ray Allen, and Reggie Miller hybrid. 9 threes for Austin Reeves, and many of them in the fourth. I don't know how many threes do you have in the fourth, like 4 or 5 at least. It was ridiculous. And thankfully, the Warriors kept making shots because the Lakers just wouldn't go away. Every time you're like, oh, yeah, the Warriors got this in hand. Like Reeves would make a BS3 or LeBron would make a BS3 and be like, oh, really? And then they had their chances there in the final 20 seconds. What Reeves made his 9th 3, cut it to 5. Then the Warriors turned the ball over, and then it was Finney-Smith who had a 3 to cut it to 2. He missed. The Lakers looked like they got the rebound, but then Jimmy stole it, and the Warriors end up obviously getting the win. So, man, what a game. What a game. Logan says, the real Jimmy looks like the defensive guy who gets to the free throw line. I don't think his big scoring will ever come around. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Obviously, in a game like this, I don't know what's going on with this internet at the moment. It's seriously pissed me off. Hopefully, we don't have any more issues moving forward here. It's so frustrating. Anyway, back to your comments. Robbie says Podz and JK both set up in this game. Good to see. They were fantastic in the first half. And in the game in general, I just thought Kuminga brought a different energy to this game, which it felt more like, okay, I'm going to do the little stuff the team needs. That's what it felt like in terms of defense and in terms of rebounding. I thought the ball didn't stick with him. Like, when he got the ball, if he saw a mismatch, then okay, yep, go to work. Like, there was that play, was it late third quarter? I think it might have been, where he had Vincent in the post, kind of backed him down. Vincent tried to draw the offensive foul, ref didn't call anything, and JK banks in the fadeaway. A couple other plays where he like just gets and goes straight to the rim. The issue is like, if he gets the ball out in the perimeter and then jab steps a few times and the ball sticks in his hands for 4 or 5 seconds, it's like, that's not Warrior basketball. Steve Kerr preaches, split second decision making. It's either, if you're Jonathan Kuminga, if you get the ball, rip through, try and get to the rim, and if you've got a mismatch, do that. Otherwise, flick the ball on, get off the ball. Like, I just thought his decision making in this game was terrific, and his passing, his rebound, like all the stuff that we've been frustrated with JK. We know he's a naturally talented scorer. We know he can go out and get you 15 points. But it's the other stuff, right? It's the ability to be able to fit into this offense, particularly, and defense as well, because you got to look at this, particularly with GP2 out, with Wiggins traded. Like, Kuminga is actually important defensively in terms of his size and athleticism. So, yeah, definitely his best game following his return, and the fact that he was able to do this following obviously his 1 game absence on Tuesday with that pelvic contusion. He was questionable right up until tip. Massive performance from him. Then next says Warriors with the fire emojis. Then Decker also says Podz and JK perfection, the best team performance of the season. We kept the lead from the first quarter to the fourth. Amazing subs and game management from Kerr. Good to see Steve get some recognition and plaudits. I like it. Logan says Jimmy still hasn't shown up offensively yet for my liking. Just hoping we get playoff Jimmy. As I said before, like, you're gonna have to. There's gonna have to be times where he steps up, and I think we saw that on Tuesday night. This one, less so, because Podz and JK had it going, so he didn't necessarily need it. But what I do like is he's like, I suppose he's not forcing things. That's probably the best thing. And he's constantly said, he's like, I'm not going to try and force things. I'm going to try and get my teammates going. I'm going to try and play the right way. And I understand that. I understand that. But again, there's going to be times where the young players are struggling. Their consistency is probably not going to be there necessarily on a game by game basis, particularly come playoff time. We'll wait and see, obviously. But young guys in the playoffs can struggle. We saw as good as Podz and JK were in this game, and Moody was pretty good as well. Moody was quite solid. Obviously disappointing that poster dunk on Reeves in the first quarter got waved away on review. But those three guys were good. Obviously, the first, Podz and JK were excellent, but Gee, Quitten Post, not so much, right? So young guys are going to struggle a bit in some of these big games. It's going to happen, and that's when you're going to need your veteran stars to come up trumps. And I think that's just what the game was about. The game was about the first half and Podz and JK being excellent and being like massive and helping the Warriors to a 13-point lead. And then the second half was about the veterans. It was about Steph taking over, not carrying the Warriors necessarily, but well, I mean, he had 25 points in the second half, so he kind of did, and just everything was going through Steph in the second half when the game was on the line, and he just made sure to keep the Lakers at bay. And Draymond made a couple of big defensive plays, and Jimmy, yes, he only had 11 points in the game, but 7 of those came in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, that's kind of it's just great to see a balance between the young guys and the veterans, I think. Robbie says games like this where JK rebounds shows why he has potential. Absolutely. Huge rebounding game from him, particularly early. He had like 6 rebounds early second quarter. There was a stretch there kind of halfway. Both teams started absolutely on fire offensively. Then you had a stretch kind of like halfway through the halfway through the first to halfway through the second where both teams really struggled. Like I think the Lakers went like 11 or 12 shots in a row where they all missed. Logan says if we can get this JK and Podz during playoffs, they will go very, very far. Potentially. They look hard to stop when you're going to have... And this is what happens. Like when you get your role players, granted, I think Podz and JK can be very high-end role players. But when you get your lesser guys playing like this, like you are hard to stop. Like when you've got the sufficient stars, when you've got Steph and you've got Jimmy and you've got Dre defensively, who I think strengthened his case again for Depoy. If you're young guys and your lesser lights are going to play like that, then yeah, you are going to be hard to stop. Robert says, woohoo, Podz is so hot in first half. JK showing flashes. Matt says, Warriors. FTW clan. I wonder what Podz haters have been thinking recently. Man, he's been impressive. And it's not just about like the 8 threes and the 28 points in this game. Like he also had 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and a steal. The 3-point shooting, that's kind of the thing that we always thought about with him, particularly in the offseason when it's like, okay, does this guy have like all-star potential? And there's a lot of debate about that. And the 3-point shooting was always a thing. It's like, okay, can this guy actually, be a 40% 3-point shooter? Can he actually have games where he makes 6, 7, 8 threes? And all of a sudden, in the space of 3 games, he's had a game with 7 threes and a game with 8 threes. And this is why, like, that's how he is going to get to being like an 18, 20 plus point per game scorer in this league, right? If he becomes a really high level 3-point shooter, and that's what ultimately is going to make you a potential all-star caliber player in the future. Theneg says 1 game for 4th. If must beat the Nuggets, just get it out of the way if we meet in the playoffs. Be another huge game tomorrow. I mean, every game's huge, but another huge game tomorrow. Theneg says April Steph averaging 40. Zertmunk says Pod shooting 8 of 10 from 3 was unreal. F2 pieces. I told you we're going 4-0. Pay Kuminga his money. This was like if you're Joe Lacob and you're the front office and you're thinking about whether or not you want to pay Kuminga. I'm getting a phone call here from... I'll have to call that person back in a second. Yeah, if you're thinking about paying Kuminga in the offseason, this is the kind of game you look to and think, okay, here's why we do it, right? Because this is what he can do and this is how he can fit into what else is going on around him. And maybe even if you don't have a solidified starting role for him, you can still pay him $25 million a year to be that 25, 30-minute per game 6th man who can come in, give you 15 to 25 points, give you 7, 8, 9 rebounds, not necessarily have the ball stick in his hands, use his athleticism and size defensively. That was the blueprint. Now I want to see it consistently. I want to see it on a consistent basis going forward here. But if he can do that, then that brings a whole new element to the team. And again, gives us a much better feeling and optimism of where this team can get to. Maddie says Kuminga is the new fall guy like Podz was in the beginning of the season. People are blaming Kuminga for the tariffs now too. Are you Australian, Maddie, or are you American? Because the tariffs have been a big thing here in Australia. Then next says Steph finally got some calls. Jackson says we're going to need JK's strength against Aaron Gordon in tomorrow's game. I want to see Draymond stand up too. Now, I suppose Draymond might have to go against Jokic, I guess. That's going to be a tough battle. But Aaron Gordon went for 38 last time against the Warriors. It's going to be really interesting to see how they guard Joker. We know the Warriors have had some struggles against the Nuggets recently. They've lost, 9 straight regular season games. We'll see if there's something different there tomorrow. It's going to be fascinating. Obviously, they came into this matchup having lost all 3 battles with the Lakers earlier this season. That was prior to the Butler trade, prior to the Doncic trade. And they kind of prove in this game that they are a different team. Can they do it again tomorrow? We'll wait and see. Then it says Steph finally got some calls, went 13 to 14 at the free throw line. Very helpful there. But they were all warranted, to be fair. I don't think there was any BS foul calls on Steph where he went to the free throw line for an unwarranted reason. So refs, I thought, pretty good in this game. Pretty good. Podziemski says our role players did great tonight. Robbie says, if JK can give you 18, 9, and 4 assists in 25 minutes, imagine if he plays 30. I hope it stays consistent. Yeah. F2P says, ever heard happy wife, happy life? Got to pay that man. He worth every penny. Also, depoy Draymond. Well, that was the case with Jimmy, wasn't it? The Miami Heat didn't want to pay Jimmy, and the Warriors said, okay, we will. And Jimmy didn't really have any interest initially in coming to Golden State. And then once he got his extension, it's like, okay, no worries. I'll show up for you. Robert says, well, Kuminga was playing bad last few games. I agree. He wasn't playing well. I agree. The criticism, some of it is deserved. I still think some of it, again, as Maddie said before, like he was becoming the fall guy. And there was stuff like, even on, beating Memphis on Tuesday, and everyone, instead of looking at Steph going for 52 and Draymond having a triple-double and Jimmy going for 27 and the late plays from Podz and Moody, everyone's like, oh, look, we play better with, when Kuminga's not there. It's like, man, just be positive on the win, right? Like, why do we have to, even in a game where he doesn't play, we're still pointing at Kuminga? I don't know. JSO says, big win, possible 3rd, 4th seed push if everything goes well, of course. You'd almost have to win out. You'd almost have to win out. And at this point, like, it's nuts how you just lose a game and you could be back in the play-in tournament situation. It is just so wild. Logan says, Jimmy made some clutch defensive plays that were very valuable. Agree. So did Draymond's defense, those last couple of possessions there where he closed out to LeBron at the 3-point line. Then LeBron drove. Dre stood in front of him the whole time and forced LeBron left, and then forced him into, like, he was trying to basically push a pass into, I think it might have been Vanderbilt or Hachimura driving baseline. And like, the pass was just not on. And that was all because of Draymond's defense, right? Unbelievable. And then the last one, the Lakers have a kind of slight opportunity. Luka drives and Draymond just like strips him on the way up. Just unbelievable. And then that last one with Jimmy where Luka or Reeves or whoever got the rebound, it looked like the Lakers were going to have another opportunity late in the final, like 25 seconds there. And then Jimmy somehow just comes up with it. That was a big play. Logan says, the confidence Podz is a very good player that can help this team go far. The DR8993 says JK's best game of the season. I'm not sure it's his best game of the season because he had some massive scoring performances. I mean, he's had his 2 career highs in like back-to-back games in December or whatever it was. So he had some massive games scoring wise. In terms of like the importance of the game, and you balance that out, then maybe. And in terms of like just fitting in, because we've often had JK plays best basketball when like Steph's out and he gets more offensive opportunity. And so in terms of games that mean a whole lot and games that have the full rotation basically there, it's definitely up there. One of his best games for sure. Then next says our bench 27 and Lakers bench had 6. Yeah, big difference. And Kuminga was obviously part of that with 18. Gee had had one bucket, went to the free throw line, drew that foul on Luke early in the game. Post had 4. Buddy, scoreless. Don't really love that, but whatever. Post got found out a little bit. Was a +7 in the game, 3 rebounds. I actually thought the Kuminga post minutes at the end of the first quarter, I thought were really good. And that's a pairing in the front court that really intrigues me. It's just whether or not like they can rebound and they can hold up defensively. And I thought they held up defensively and rebounded really well in that like late stint in the first quarter. Kuminga kind of continued that throughout the game, but post, a few times getting switched on to like LeBron and Luka got found and Reeves like got found out a little bit. That's going to happen. You're a 7-foot rookie center. I'm not going to blame him too much for that, but it does mean like in a game like this, his minutes are going to be limited. And like I'd be surprised come playoff time if we see a Quentin Post game where he plays 20 plus minutes. I'd be surprised. I feel like it's always going to be somewhere between like 12 and 18. I think he should still play. I don't think he should be out of the rotation at all, but the minutes will be a bit limited here in some of these big games, I think. And then the Lakers, I mean, they don't have any scorers off the bench. Now, I suppose you can always say, well, do they need any? Because they can have two of Luka, Reeves, LeBron out on the floor at all times, and maybe that's true. But like Finney-Smith, 0 of 5 from deep, wasn't great. Vando's not really an offensive threat. Vincent, 1 of 5 from deep as well. So that's the thing that hurts them because they need Finney-Smith and Vincent hitting shots. And recently they have been, but in this game they combine 1 of 10, right? And ideally, you'd probably have them going 3 or 4 of 10, and it could be a completely different game. So they're not overly deep. Like you look at, Jordan Goodwin's playing 14 minutes, not really a threat. And then, a heap of DNP guys who are just, you don't want to see out there at all. Jackson Hayes starting center plays less than 15 minutes. So they are very heavy on like Rui, LeBron, Reeves, Doncic, and then like Finney-Smith. Like they are their like clear top 5. And they can get away with that against the Warriors, who obviously want to play small themselves. Robert says, "Can't believe Podz is only second year." Well, this is kind of what I was saying at the start of the season when everyone was piling into him, and I get it. He was playing terribly. Like, there's no shying away from that. But I was also like, hey, the guy's 21, and it's the start of his second year. Like, he's allowed to have some slumps, right? And I still think that. I still think he's allowed to have some slumps here. It's just since then, it's been basically very, very positive throughout it all. Like, and he's even had a couple of stints where he's been on the sidelines injured. And both times he's come back and been absolutely terrific. And for him to go 8 of 10 and just, it's just the confidence levels. The confidence levels were sky high in this game. And felt like he belonged. And that's what I think is great about the Warrior young guys is none of these guys are shying away from anything. Like Podz, super confident young player to the point where I think fans were using that as a source of criticism earlier in the season. Moody wants to poster Austin Reeves, like not shy. Kuminga, we know. Alrighty, I'm gonna finish it up here because this is the internet. I mean, good old NBN in Australia, just absolutely terrible. Anyway, last few comments here. Jackson says, Jimmy grifting for free throws after the team got a little 3 happy brought a smile to my face. Yep. Steve says, see what happens when you boo the Petty King, you get dropped 37 on you. GSW says, 1 loss behind both Nuggets and Lakers while both teams have been in bad form. Huge game tomorrow against the Nuggets now. Huge. Thandek says, most of our role players do better at home. I think that's the case for everyone's role players. Just feel more comfortable in your home. But to see the role players tonight, Podz, JK particularly, and they're like higher level role players. They're like young guys who still believe they can be stars in this league. So there's a bit of a difference there, but they were obviously huge. Robbie says, Thandek says, Lakers still play OKC twice. Robbie says, can't wait for GP2 to come back to have the whole roster. He is going to be day-to-day. The Warriors updated today. So he could play tomorrow, I suppose, against the Nuggets, which would be helpful, especially given some guys are probably likely to be tired. I don't think anyone will be resting out of tomorrow's game, that's for sure. But there's likely to be some tired guys that have another guy in GP2 available would be helpful. Obviously, coming off the torn ligament in his thumb, which is, I think, still going to kind of be an issue, but it's something he's just going to have to play through. The biggest thing for me is GP2 has been a revelation since the All-Star break because of his 3-point shooting and because he's shot like 50% from deep, which just, if he's like cashing corner threes, just makes him a completely different player, right? And a really, really valuable one. And to me, like the thumb issue, is that going to be a problem with his shooting? Because if he comes back from that injury and he just flat out can't shoot again, very limited minutes moving forward, and it's just a completely different player. Uh, Thandeka says, I think AD was our kryptonite, and Lakers without AD are not that scary. Well, they just play much more into the Warriors style because the Warriors want to play small and the Lakers also want to play small kind of thing. And when I mean small, it's like there's no huge guy that's 6'10, 6'11, 7 foot out there. Like LeBron's still massive. Luka's still massive. Finney-Smith and Hachimura, they're still big guys, but they're like 6'7 to 6'9. They're not like 6'10 plus behemoths like an Anthony Davis kind of thing. So I think, yes, you are right in saying that the AD usually gave the Warriors a lot of problems, and now this Lakers team might be better. Like the team might be better, but specifically against the Warriors, I think the Warriors would prefer this matchup now than what they did in the past when they had AD. Logan says GP2 since wearing the mask has been lights out from 3. Absolutely. All right, I'm going to finish it up there, guys. I apologize for the internet issues again. It's super frustrating. Massive 24 hours in sport for me. Great start to the weekend. Collingwood beating Carlton last night. Massive rivalry over 80,000 fans in the MCG. Watching that was absolutely unbelievable. And then the Warriors beating the Lakers today. LeBron-Steph rivalry. Doesn't get much better than that. Let's hope the Warriors can continue it against the Nuggets tomorrow. I'll be back for another post-game live. I'll be on the road for that one, different location. But hopefully the internet issues don't carry over. We'll wait and see. But if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks to everyone that has commented. Thanks to everyone watching on the replay or via your podcast feed. It's much appreciated. I'll see everyone hopefully tomorrow after another win. Fingers crossed for the Warriors against the Nuggets.